Okay, it's Monday and it's time to get started in a new week in our class, and I added some video of myself, so you're welcome for that. All right, but anyway, before you do anything else this week, though, stop everything and go to the course home. If you have not yet done this, you gotta do this, and click on this remind link right here. Click on that remind link. So you're joining our remind group, because I need everyone on there, because that's how I want to communicate with all of you. I don't want to communicate through D2L's email or other emails or things like that. Remind is just a great tool for doing this. Now, a new issue has come up though with Remind, unfortunately for the Verizon users who out there. Apparently Remind won't work after January 28th with Verizon, I guess, service with your texting. And so for those of you who might have Verizon, you might want to sign up with Remind using your email address instead of your text. But it should work for everything else, so yeah, make sure you do that before you start this week, before you do anything else. I think I still need several of you to join the Remind group so that I have everybody on board. All right, now let's look at the content here. Okay, so this week you'll be learning about the Meaningful Learning Framework, and also next week. So if you look under January 21st through the 26th, that's Meaningful Learning Applied. And next week there's a Meaningful Learning assignment due. So I want to make sure that you are up on this assignment and you can begin to work on this now. As you learn about meaningful learning, you'll know where you're going. And this is the goal to get to over the next few weeks. This assignment will be due at the end of next week, so I think that is, January 26th. All right, so your assignment is to explain or teach the Meaningful Learning Framework to someone who is unfamiliar with the framework by creating online media that can take many forms. Your assignment needs to include a definition and example of each of the meaningful learning elements: active, constructive, cooperative, intentional, and authentic. So be sure to define, explain, and give a good example of each of these 5 elements in your own words, and don't just copy the text from the book or from the class presentations. And you do have a variety of tools available to you to help you do this online. You're going to choose one of these tools, so you can create a poster, and here are a couple of websites that will allow you to create a poster type thing. You can create a podcast that you can register at and use. Let's see, a storybook. So if you want to make a storybook about the Meaningful Learning Framework, a concept map, a presentation, and a comic book. So you can take any of these forms for your assignment. You only need to choose one. And then what you're going to do is kind of choose, say you want to make a comic book, for instance. Then you're going to choose one of the sites, kind of get into that site, learn it a little bit, understand how it works, take some time to, let's say it's Toondoo, for instance, you're going to go to toondoo.com and spend some time learning about that tool so you can understand how you might create a meaningful learning assignment. And then when you are finished with that, learning the tool, you can actually create the assignment for this. So no matter what you choose to create, though, don't forget that what you create must define, explain, and give an example of each of the 5 elements of meaningful learning: active, constructive, cooperative, intentional, and authentic learning. And remember that your audience has little or no knowledge of the Meaningful Learning Framework. And then you're going to submit a document to D2L with the internet address for your finished assignment and your name in it when you are done. So your assignment will be graded using this rubric down below, and it will look for each element of meaningful learning to tell, whether it needs work or clarification, or whether it is completely explained well. Is it appropriate to an audience with little or no knowledge of the Meaningful Learning Framework, and is it free of grammatical and spelling errors? So that's what it looks for in this assignment. So that's what you're working toward this week. You can go ahead and look at some of the tools out here as you maybe explore them a little bit. There's going to be a lot of opportunities to explore different tools in this class during the next few weeks and also later in the class. So exploring different tools is going to be part of the class for sure. So take some time to get into some of those tools if you have time. And then you'll also, of course, be learning some important things this week and next about the Meaningful Learning Framework and what this is all about. So let's take a look at the activities for this week. I'm just going to remove one thing real quick here. All right, so you have an intro to the Meaningful Learning Framework that you'll take a look at, and gives a nice introduction to what it's all about. And my internet is kind of slow today, so hopefully this comes up soon. And then you'll be watching, I know, some presentations about, I think it's 3 of the different aspects of the Meaningful Learning Framework this week. Oh yeah, and reading Chapter 8 and a few more things too. And then there's a presentation on the framework itself, a presentation on active learning, on constructive learning, and on authentic learning. So 3 of the 5 elements of the Meaningful Learning Framework. And then this week you'll finish out by discussing these one of these elements in more depth and what it might look like in a real learning situation for the discussion this week. So that's this week, and then if you look up next week early, you'll be learning about the other 2 Meaningful Learning Framework items that we didn't cover this week, and also finishing up, wrapping it up, and then submitting that assignment as well as completing a discussion. So that's the next few weeks is really focused on this Meaningful Learning Framework, and it's a framework that we will use throughout the semester to think about how technology-enhanced learning should be and how technology can transform the learning experience if we make the learning meaningful. So that's what to do this week. I don't think there's anything else that I have on the agenda. Yep, just the week's activities and so forth. So good luck getting started this week, and we'll keep communicating through the discussion boards and through Remind.